Good morning again, and welcome to the 15th of our Bible studies that will take us through the year, looking at different themes and different important messages that come to us from Scripture. We are still in our section looking at disaster stories and natural wonders in the Bible, and today we come to one of the big ones, to the repeated ecological disasters that happened to Egypt just before the Exodus and during it. I'm going to read the summary provided for us by the psalmist in Psalm 78, verses 52 to 55. They forgot to remember his power. They didn't keep in mind the day he redeemed them from their foe. They forgot that he had shown his signs in Egypt, his miracles in Zoan's fields. They forgot he had turned their rivers to blood and made the brooks undrinkable. They forgot the swarms of biting midges he sent, and the frogs that came to eat them up. They forgot the caterpillars he sent to eat their crops, and the locusts he sent to eat their hard-earned fruits. They forgot the hail he sent to destroy their vines, and the frost that killed their fig trees. They forgot the cattle killed by hail, and the sheep that succumbed to the thunder. They forgot how he released his fierce anger, wrath, indignation, and distress upon them, like an army of messengers of destruction. They forgot how he had made a way for his anger, and did not hesitate to kill them, but gave their lives over to the plague. They forgot how he attacked all the firstborn of Egypt, those born first by the virility of those living in the land of Ham. They even forgot that he led his own people out like sheep, and that, like a flock, he guided them through the wilderness. To safety he led them, and they were not afraid. But behind them the sea overwhelmed their enemies. Finally, he brought them to his sacred mount, to the high place that his right hand had won, having driven out the nations in front of them. He shared out the land for them to possess, and settled Israel's clans in their camps. This liturgical poet, writing not later than 930 BC, has summarized for us the ecological disasters that preceded and accompanied the Exodus from Egypt in about 1250 BC, which is commemorated by both Jews and Christians at Passover and Easter to this day. The psalm expresses regret that the Jews of 930 BC had forgotten the disasters that visited their oppressors 3 centuries before. Exodus chapters 7 to 11 contain a detailed account of the plagues and geological catastrophes that formed the backdrop to the escape of the Israelite nation across a dry seabed. They got away from their oppressors who had enslaved them. The sea withdrew, letting them escape before the piled-up waters of a tsunami struck, drowning their enemy's army. Then, following what they saw rising high over the horizon as a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, they moved northwards, towards what they later described as a land of promise, or the land that God had vowed to give their ancestors. In his 1998 book, Act of God, history lecturer Graham Phillips made a good case for links between monotheist Pharaoh Akhenaten and Moses. And he also links the plagues and disasters with the explosion of a great volcano on the island of Thera, now known as Santorini, that spelt the end of the Minoan civilization and gave rise to the myth of Atlantis. Many of the described phenomena and much of the disease can plausibly be traced back to that volcanic explosion and its subsequent fallout. Its venting into the upper atmosphere gave rise to that pillar of cloud and fire that led the people northwards through Sinai towards the Fertile Crescent and the lands which would become Judah and Israel. For the Minoans and the Egyptians, it was a disaster. But how was it to be remembered by those who benefited from this opportunity to escape? It was, of course, remembered by them as a nation-founding event, and naturally they saw the hand of God in it favouring them. Does that mean that God sent an ecological disaster on millions in order to release a small number of slaves? Some might say that it was a judgment on those military and trading empires. We today know more about geology and partly understand its workings now. We might want to put it another way, agreeing with Shakespeare in Hamlet that the brave and the wise seize the opportunities presented to them by the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Faith in God, faith in the power that loves us and leads us, helps us to seize the moment. And Moses was the man who seized it for his people. It is the faith and wisdom of those involved that makes the difference between disaster and opportunity. Well, tomorrow we're going to try an earthquake in Numbers 16. So see you then.